I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, November the 14th, brought to you in part by the International Brangus Breeders Association. Brangus, nothing fake here, just real ranchers producing top quality beef. To find a breeder or a sale near you, visit gobrangus.com. Packer margins grew wider on Wednesday, and you think, oh no, the market was terrible and the board was down and this and that and everything. Yeah, but they lured the packer or the feedlots into taking steady money in the Southern Plains anyway. Lured them into taking steady money at 115 because it was looking earlier in the week that we were going to gain a little bit more ground, and then box beef cutout values were sharply higher once again. They were sharply higher on Tuesday and sharply higher on Wednesday, and they just continue. The board never bothers your beef market, but everybody seems to fall victim to that board. We've been talking here for the last couple of months that we were going to have a correction. We were going to have a retracement of that board somewhere. The board has just been on a steady incline for quite some time now, with hardly any knee-jerk reaction, hardly any correction, any bounce back at all, and we're due to have some of that. And we got just a little bit of it because we were kind of uneven earlier in the week, and then we got a little bit of a rollback on Wednesday morning, and then your algorithm just took over and just cranked it down. But anyway, you look at your live cattle futures for December, down 165 at the end of the day, closing at 118.10. February down $1.47 at 124.10. November feeder cattle down hard $2.22 at 145.57, and January down $4.30, nearly the limit at 142.82. Your fat cattle trade, and like I said, they snookered your Southern Plains feedlots into taking steady money because that board was down. And it wasn't that we had basis jumpers, because we're dealing with a negative $3 basis right now. You would have thought if we were going to succumb to steady money on an up market, they would have at least waited until the board backed up to where cash was at. But no, 115, you got a board at 118.10. The Northern Plains didn't really sell the bulk of their cattle, and keep in mind they're selling 3/4 of your negotiated cattle, your cash cattle, every week, but they sold a few sales, 114 up to 117, a lot of 115, 116. That'd be kind of steady. Did hear late in the day that we heard some dress trade from a major at 182. Now that would be $1 better on a dress market, and we feel like we're kind of steady strong, so gaining $1 on your dress market would seem kind of logical there. But we'll see how much movement we get here late in the week, and if the board continues to go down hard, and if we have any trade at any other levels. And not really sure how much volume we had, but we did have some trade. Box beef cutout values, I told you they were higher. Choice cuts at the end of the day on Wednesday at $242.34, up $1.84. Selects $217.53, up $1.30. These are huge moves for a one-day trade, guys, and they're just climbing and climbing, and then by the time we get to the end of the week, we get somewhere between $6 and $8 gains. It's just monster gains. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your feeders were started out the week a little bit lower, mostly because of the cold snap, especially in the Southern Plains. We don't like the cold too much down here. We don't like to bring cattle in the cold, and we don't like to buy any cattle in the cold. The guys in the Northern Plains don't have any choice. They just have to go ahead and do business. I remember whenever I got out of college and left home for the first time permanent, I lived up in the Twin Cities. I worked out of the South St. Paul stockyards in St. Paul, Minnesota there. And you'd go to bed at night and it'd be 20 or 30 below, and maybe snow 10 inches or 15 or 20, and you'd think, whew, I didn't want to do anything tomorrow anyway. Everything was still open. the stockyards were still going. There were still trucks there. They were still unloading cattle. You wouldn't see no change hardly in the receipts. Everybody went on about their business. They did things on the weekends because you just had to muscle through it. But we don't like to do that in the Southern Plains. We want it to be sunny and 75 anytime we do any business. But Tuesday we saw some higher markets and a lot of your premium markets, a lot of Northern Plains markets that sell high on Tuesday. On Wednesday we saw kind of a mix of the two, but we did take back just about everything we'd gained on Tuesday on your real-time index. But OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, big sale there, 8,100 head, and El Reno hasn't been near as big as the city here lately. And I know that's kind of a jockeying back and forth. I'm not sure if the competition's as big as it used to be or as big as some people think it is, but OKC West, 8,100 head there. Look at your market. Feeder steers steady to $2 higher. Feeder heifers steady to $2 lower, and you wonder why it's that way sometimes. Well, it's just kind of how your order buyers fall. I would assume there was probably more interest from the north as we're starting to get done with harvest, and your farmer feeders, if they send some orders down from up north, it's typically for steers. They like to feed steers. Your commodity guys, your hedged feeders, your corporate feeders, they don't really care. They just want to know whichever one pencils out the best, so they're more apt to come in on the heifers. But feeder steers steady to $2 higher, feeder heifers steady to $2 lower. Calves on Tuesday were mostly steady, a few steers $2 to $3 higher. But I did talk to John Cooper there, the auctioneer, and he sent me a quote, and I found it online there. You see 126 head of 801 pound steers in El Reno. These were Bennington, Oklahoma, nice couple loads of steers there at 151 and a quarter. Dodge City, Kansas had half as many cattle as they did a week ago because it was cold. 55 head there, 883 pounds at 155.50, and you think, whoa, those cattle were very thin, hard yearlings in a great condition, compensatory gain there, but still very impressive quote there. Let's talk about some different kind of cattle that we don't normally talk about. They still feed Holstein steers. I've told a lot of people that it won't be long before we'll have to go to a zoo to see a Holstein steer with all these dairies getting their sexed semen that they order, and they, why would they want to have Holstein, bull calves, and they really don't want to. They just soon have heifers, and then it would get the heifer market down to nothing, which it's about there anyway. But these little Holstein bull calves are hard to keep alive. The people that do grow them up, they earn their keep there, and then they're kind of inefficient to feed. But some people still feed them. But Springfield, Missouri has always kind of been the Holstein steer capital of the world. There used to be a lot of Holstein heifers raised, used to be a lot of small dairies in that part of the country, and Southwest Regional Stockyards back in the day was Holstein steer capital of the world. Now there's a whole lot more Holstein steers way out west in California and Arizona's places, but you get up in the central part of the United States, you still see about as many Holsteins in Springfield as you do anywhere. And they kind of premiere them. They usually sell them about the same time every Wednesday there at the sale. But at Springfield Livestock Marketing Center, Springfield, Missouri, you can watch them every Wednesday on dvauction.com. But Holstein steers, look at this big load, 50 head, 987 pound Holstein steers bring 85.60. So what can you do with that? Well, that's up to you guys. Let's talk about a premium sale on some big fancy calves. South Central Regional Stockyards, Vienna, Missouri. David Patton and Sons there. Nice sale barn there. Been there many times, and they got awful good cattle right there in South Central Missouri. 102 head of 703 pound fancy steers, 157. How about Torrington, Wyoming on some little peewee fancy steer calves? 110 head of those weighed 486 at 185.50. But Bassett, Nebraska had a sale. Wasn't one of their bigger sales, but still premium type sale up there on Wednesday. They had a lot of good lighter calves. I tell you what, the 5-weight steer calves in Bassett, there was about 600 of them, nearly 7 of the 5 weights, and they averaged 174.22 on all of them. Well, what about this stick out bunch right here? 55 head of 520-pound steers, Bassett, Nebraska, 183.75. That's your feeder flash for Thursday.